Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Outburst in quarter number 3.
Harden alone outscored the Wolves in the third 22-20.
Sets up for another 3 and buries it. James Harden.
We were confident. We had the mentality to be aggressive. Eventually, they're softballing. That's what happened.
This is the time for the Rockets.
It's like someone announced their tour dates on Twitter last night.
Yes, they did. Good job, Cliff, playing a little Darius.
Cookmaster Cliff.
20-something. Great song.
It's a sad song.
Well, I mean, it's a
good song and a sad song.
I remember asking him.
Hold on. You talk about yourselves. I'm fine.
The last time he was on the show, this album came out, and he's
this be Darius Rucker,
50-something, as they say. He's 50. And I said,
something.
Do you have to be, it's 20-something, it's about your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, 50s, up to the 80s. I said, do you have to be basically in your 50s before you can start writing? You can't be 20 years old and write this song and tell me what it's like to be at 50 or 60. So
no.
You have to have a little life experience before you write a song.
Oh, wait,
like that.
what was the song, Once I Was 7 Years Old? Who wrote that? Lucas, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You guys are terrible. You know.
Wow, wait a minute. There's one song I was once 7 years old.
Once I was 7 years old. My mother said, "Go find a friend, or you'll be lonely."
Yeah.
See,
I do know that song.
Who was it?
Lucas Graham.
Lucas Graham. Thank you.
Lucas Graham.
You were
okay.
all jerks.
I know. If you would have sang it like that, I'd have known it the first time.
Maybe not.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up in just a few moments, about a half hour from now, Steve Clifford, former Hornets head coach, will join us to talk about the NBA playoffs and what he sees going forward.
And by the way, we have cookies out for him, a bunch of Girl Scout cookies on a plate.
Nicely done.
Offer our guests. That's what we like to do.
We're accommodating.
Yes, we are.
We like to accommodate people. At 9 o'clock, Bruce Arians will join us, former Cardinals head coach, known as the quarterback whisperer. I'm curious what he thinks about all the quarterbacks in this year's draft.
He has some advice for his former team on who to take.
The question is, will they listen? And then at 9:30, Jonathan Vilma, ESPN NFL analyst, longtime linebacker, Jets, Saints, obviously from the U, have some great stories about what he thinks about the draft experience and who he likes in this year's
And
draft.
that's also another position that's kind of changed and morphed a little bit in the NFL, the linebacker position. So I want to get some of his thoughts on that as well.
Love to hear his thoughts on Roquan Smith, Rashaan Evans, and some of those other guys in there. He'll join us at 9:30. And this hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. We'll get to all of that, plus some new comments from Baker Mayfield after we do what's trending. And thankfully, the third quarter eventually ended last night for Minnesota. The Rockets outscored the Timberwolves 50-20 in the third quarter, won by 19 to take a 3-1 stranglehold lead in their first-round series.
And listen, this was nothing more than the shots started to fall.
Yep.
I mean, you heard James Harden say we clamped down on defense a little more, but from the offensive side, if you watch this game earlier, they had open looks and they were just missing them.
Yeah.
You know, and it was still only a 1-point game at halftime. So if you're Minnesota, I would have gone in the locker room going, uh-oh, they're missing their shots and it's only a 1-point game. Obviously, they didn't miss much in the third quarter at all, especially Harden, as he outscored the Minnesota by himself. He scored 22. They had 20. LeBron did that in game 2 of this series against the Pacers. He outscored the Pacers in the first quarter of that game 2 there. Harden's done it 3 times this year, I believe, outscored an opponent in one quarter. But that's what it was. Their shots started falling. They're volume shooters, 43 3-point attempts. They average 42. They hit 16 of them. So that's what they're scoring their points. And as I said, I'm already looking forward to that matchup in the second round, as they now have a 3-1 advantage over Minnesota, with Utah, who has a 3-1 advantage over Oklahoma City to match up in that second round.
By the way, perhaps the Timberwolves should have done what our old compadre Lee Corso did back in the day in 1976 as the Indiana head coach.
Take the picture.
When they were closer, had the lead. He took the picture when they were up 7-6.
Yeah.
Indiana was on Ohio State. They went on to lose 47-7.
Good thing they got the picture.
But they got the picture. Maybe the Timberwolves should have taken the picture. Close game. Close game at half. And now it looks like, of course, it's done. And James Harden knows why that this game went the way it did.
We hit the switch that we've been trying to hit, from the beginning of the playoffs, on both ends of the floor. It's pretty scary what we're capable of when defensively we're locked in like that, and offensively we got it rolling. So, great quarter for us to give us the lead. And now we go back to the crib and try to finish it off.
But again, the amazing thing is it wasn't like they were actually making a ton of shots.
No.
They just made enough of them. Again, everybody has now played 4 games in the NBA playoffs. The Rockets have taken 173 threes. That's almost 50 more than the next closest team at 129. So it's not as if they're actually falling. They're just continuing to take them, and they're going on. Brett, what was their three-point shooting percentage as a team in the regular season? Because in the playoffs, they're just at 33%. They've only made 57 of those 173.
They were over 36% in the regular season.
Okay, so again, if they ever hit at that clip, forget it.
Well, I mean, listen, Steph Curry will be back at some point. He'll help that Golden State average go way up.
Yeah,
once he's back.
But it's not as if they're all falling. They're just continuing to take them, and eventually some of them
throw them all up there. Eventually they're going to go in.
Volume shooting. It's like when Kobe scored 16 in the last game. I think he took 50 shots.
Yeah.
And that's the way we run up to the buzzer on what's trending. What also is trending is Donovan Mitchell. 33 points in the Jazz 113-96 win over the Thunder, as Utah is now up 3-1 in their first-round series.
Yeah, after losing game 1 and running off the next 3, it's been Donovan Mitchell who has been incredible. He has outscored Russell Westbrook in the last 3 games, 32-5 in the fourth quarter. Now, Mitchell has just been showing time and time again what a great player he is at obviously such a young age. It's still a battle between him and Ben Simmons. When the awards come out, he'll be the Rookie of the Year. But I have to admit, I'm more confused or wondering about Russell Westbrook. Now, in this last game last night, he had 4 fouls in the first half. So I get it. You got to play a little more reserved. But he is the most attacking player, in my opinion, we have in the NBA, and the most aggressive. And that's the way he loves to play. Where was he in the fourth quarter in the last 3 games? I've been stunned by that. And now Utah is in position to close it out next game.
And again, Donovan Mitchell has scored 110 points this series, the 5th most in NBA history by a rookie through his first 4 playoff games, and the most since Michael Jeffrey Jordan scored 117 in his first 4 playoff games in 1985. Again, when you're on the list and it's you and MJ, you're doing good things. Meanwhile, Joel Embiid says the 76ers team is special and the time is now. He says, I think our time is now. We have a special team, a lot of great guys. I don't think we need anybody else. We've just got to work with what we have. And he's absolutely right.
It's kind of interesting, though. You wonder, you sit there and talk about, will LeBron go to the 76ers? You're all saying, we don't need anybody else. We're good.
Yeah, you take LeBron.
Yeah, I know you would. But
let's be clear.
This is a team we're talking about between them and Boston if Cleveland doesn't win it this year, if LeBron does, in fact, go somewhere else, who's next in the East? Is it the Raptors who were sitting at the top seed, but they just got, evened up by Washington, right? That series
2-2.
is 2-2. So we keep waiting for them to take that next step. But is it going to be Boston when they get their pieces healthy again, or is it going to be Philadelphia with the way they're growing there? You love what Embiid's doing, so I look forward to that game. The Bucks and Celtics are in a heck of a series right now. What Jaylen Brown, the young players are doing for Boston has been incredible. A couple of 30-point games for him. Another one, and he'll tie Kevin McHale back in 88 for 3 30-pointers in a series. And Antetokounmpo has been incredible for the Bucks. And the 76ers are plus 42 in the fourth quarter against Miami. It's been close for 3 quarters, but when it matters the most, when the light shines the brightest, there have been the 76ers getting it done in the fourth quarter.
And again, they can close out the Heat tonight at home in Philadelphia. You can say whatever you want about the process, and you thought it was stupid. It worked for them. It's not the way I think most teams would want to go about it.
I think most people would hate it because you go through so many years of losing.
But it worked for them.
But that's the option right now, and the league, doesn't want it to happen and say they're going to discipline you if you do it. Figuring out if you do it outside of, Mark Cuban coming out and saying, we're doing it.
And then he got fined.
Yeah, exactly. So, but right now, that's the best option. And when you see it come to fruition, even though it took more than a few years in Philadelphia, you say, okay, that's the way we're going to try it then.
Philadelphia, again, has a chance to close out Miami at home tonight, and that is what's trending. And we're all trending toward this right now.
How do we know that a pick is coming up?
Like Pavlovian.
I was
something's happened.
Bummed last year on Saturday the draft in Philadelphia. The Eagles had asked me to do either the 4th or 5th round pick.
Right.
and I had to be in Chicago, so I had to leave early that morning to go to Chicago, and I couldn't be around. But I would have really loved that. To go up and do the pick.
Well, Chris Canny, who filled in for you on Friday, is going to be there calling the Giants' third-round pick.
I think isn't Jeff Saturday doing one of the Colts?
I believe he is. And a parrot, by the way, is doing the picks. A third-round pick from Tampa Bay.
A parrot.
I think we all should have seen that coming from the Jolly Roger.
Love it. Yes.
Listen, it's a TV show.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Entertain us.
The draft is a TV show. We're listing a bunch of names. No one is actually playing a down. So understand what it is and what it isn't. It's a TV show. We're here to entertain you. And I think Chris Canny, by the way, going to Dallas to pick the third-round pick of the Giants is an exceptional troll because the Cowboys made Canny their second-round pick in 2005. And then he left the Cowboys for free agency in the Giants, where he got $40+ million, and he had a Super Bowl ring. So we asked Darren Woodson in here. He said, "Do you think you're going to boo him?" And Darren said, "Oh yeah, they'll boo you." He said, "Well, I'll just flash the ring and say thank you very much for giving me my millions and my Super Bowl championship." So,
love the draft.
Double win.
And right now, so we know exactly what's going on with Cleveland, right? It's either Sam Darnold or it's either Josh Allen.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hold on. We've got an update.
Oh, no.
This from ESPN insider Adam Schefter.
Say it isn't so.
Quote, just to add a bit more murkiness to the top of the draft, one NFL executive said this morning that Baker Mayfield is definitely in Cleveland's considerations to become the number 1 overall pick.
Yes! Way to go, Shefty!
To that I say, bull.
Yeah. No,
okay? Because what this is somebody trying to drive up interest for Baker Mayfield, so somebody sitting at 11, like the Miami Dolphins, or 12, like Buffalo, or 15, like Arizona, saying, holy crap, he may go 1. Yeah. We got to move up people and get some more cash.
Yeah, he's not going 1.
He's not going to go 1. I love the fact that it's out there, though.
Oh, it's great.
We are in the lying season. There's no way around it. We are in the disinformation, double entourage, all that kind of stuff. We are in covert ops situation, and that's what's happening. Speaking of Baker Mayfield, he was a guest this week on Marty Smith's America's podcast, which is sweeping the nation.
Yes, it is.
It's available on ESPN or on Apple Podcasts. And we played the bite yesterday where he thought the immaturity thing was a bunch of
malarkey.
Yeah, a bunch of malarkey. Let's just so everyone hears it again. This is what he said about the immaturity issues and who's saying it.
Immaturity issues, that all these draft gurus, whatever you want to call them, they've never played football before, so it doesn't really matter when it comes down to it. But they say the issues would be maturity. They say they don't know if I can be a franchise guy. I've been the face at Oklahoma fortunately for 3 years at a place that, you talk about the Alabamas, the Ohio State, the Clemsons, the Michigans, the USC. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that. So I've been preparing myself, even though I didn't know it, for this next step for a while now. And I'm ready to go have it all be about football.
Well, that's wonderful.
Right.
But let's be clear about a couple of things. The NFL draft is littered with quarterbacks that were the faces of college franchises that had no success at the NFL.
Oh, it's exactly right.
So let's be clear about that.
If we go 4 quarterbacks in the first round, you can pretty much bet that 2 of them will bust.
And we're probably going to go 5 and potentially 6.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're looking at.
I just didn't want to say 5 because then I would say 2.5 would be a bust, which is a half.
It's an over-under thing.
It's exactly.
And we'll do it later.
The hook,
but that's the point, is that it's great to say you've been the face of Oklahoma, but that means, you know what that means at the next level? Nothing.
It means nothing.
It means nothing.
But you know what? He answered the question.
He
answered the question, and all that, those maturity things, from the flag.
I don't care at all about that.
Running from the police.
That I probably care about.
I get it, but you know what? You're in college. You get caught. Your first instinct is to run sometimes. I mean, again, is it the greatest thing in the world to do? No. Would I sit there and say, oh yeah, that's what you should do there? But yeah, I'm not going to say, oh, he did that. He's off my draft board. No. The biggest issue I've had with him, quite honestly, from a football standpoint of college game, going to the NFL, because that's all we're talking about here. That's the only thing we're discussing, was how he handled the Chargers situation.
Yes.
Now, I don't think it's going to affect his draft status of where he's going to go, but I didn't like that. And if I were looking ahead to think, okay, so if he's not in a position that he feels comfortable in, does he just not do something? What if a team he goes to, he's third string? Yeah. Is he not looking at the game plan as much? Like it, I don't know that, but it makes you ask the question. It won't affect where he's going to go or at what point of the draft, I think. But that one just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
Well, and to the point, for those that don't quite understand, it was an MMQB article on SI.com where he was meeting with the Chargers, and apparently he didn't study the Chargers playbook as he should.
Yeah,
have.
What they do is what teams do for quarterbacks is before you meet with them, usually you'll give them a handful of plays and ask them to study them and kind of regurgitate them and talk about them. And that's what the Chargers did before they went to lunch. And they went to lunch, and Baker said, he admitted, I didn't study them like I should, but basically they're not really my priority. I have a lot on my plate. I just didn't like it.
None of that is right.
No,
because first of all, if they're taking the time, you should take the time.
Yeah.
And secondly, if your plate is full, what is it full with?
Yeah,
it should only be full with getting yourself the best market value for the draft.
And if you say you're going to be gone by then, don't go to lunch with them.
Yeah.
Just say, what, politely decline and, go about the rest of what's on your plate.
Correct.
So I just didn't like the way that was handled. But, this is a guy that's going to get picked in the first round, and, we'll see what happens.
By the way, kudos to Chargers GM Tom Telesco for an excellent response. He was asked in his annual pre-draft presser about what Baker said, and he said, I'm probably not prepared to comment on that. My plate's pretty full.
There you go.
Then he added, no offense.
Woo.
So well done, Tom Telesco. Well done. So as we said, Baker is on the Marty Smith's America podcast. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that people love about Baker, and this is true, is the fact that he is in many ways much like Tom Brady, much like Aaron Rodgers, much like Drew Brees, an uber competitor.
You would have to kill me before I'd let you win. I will never give up, and that's something that the great ones have. They take that competition level to heights that you could not even imagine. You talk about the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings, and then just recently Deshaun Watson. You just talk about having the mentality to never give up.
And that's great. But that only works if the skill set comes with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Listen, I love the kid's attitude.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love the way he goes about his business, his attitude, his ability to want and try.
That's what you want to hear.
A play. That is. So we just have to see what the skill set is.
But see,
and again, everybody listing off his wins and this and that, that's all fine, but it's you don't always look at numbers all the time. You look at what transfers to the next level.
That's
and
exactly
why
right.
I think Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson are intriguing to me is because I do think the NFL is shifting a bit, not to college offenses, but to implementing those college-type quarterbacks into their offenses better in the NFL, not just saying, I don't care what you did in college, this is what we're doing here. They'll use Baker Mayfield's abilities to get the best out of him. They'll do that for Lamar Jackson as well. And the way they do that, you almost wonder, could Lamar be one of the better ones of all of them in this draft? If you use his ability, you don't want him running a lot. But let's be honest, his threat of running far outdoes anybody in this class, right? Far outdoes anybody in this class, that if this guy breaks the pocket, you are legitimately wondering, do I need to come up and stop this guy? Or is he, and then when he does, is he going to throw it over the top? That is monstrous. If that can be harnessed and used to the good and not to run all the time, because you run too much, you're going to get hit too much, you're going to get hurt. But man, if that can be used to his benefit, the sky could be the limit for this guy as long as he's able to hit his passes out of the pocket, and that's something we have to wait and see.
I'll say this about Baker Mayfield, and people are going to get mad when I make this comparison. It has nothing to do with off-the-field issues. Many of my concerns about Baker have nothing to do with immaturity or any of that. To me, it's physics. Okay?
Right.
When I saw Johnny Manziel coming out of 2014, my concern was, here's a guy who wants to play like Ben Roethlisberger, who's the size of the punter.
Right.
Okay? That usually doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Now, Baker's a little more stocky.
He's a little
definitely more stocky.
But here's the problem. Forget all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Get it all out of the way.
Just football.
Here are my concerns about Baker at the next level. He's 6 feet tall.
Yes, he is.
Okay? So in recent memory, going back actually a long, long way, quarterbacks that are 6 feet or under that have had legitimate long-term success in the NFL, there's two of them.
Right.
Russell Wilson and Drew Brees.
Right.
Russell Wilson has escapability. And people say, well, Baker Mayfield has escapability.
Not as much as
Not
Russell.
that much.
No.
Russell Wilson ran a 4.5 40. Yeah. Baker ran a 4.8 and a 4.9.
Right.
Okay, you know what that is? That gets you killed.
Gets you
Von Miller runs a 4.5 40. We had Marcus Spears in here.
Yeah.
He ran a 4.8 40 at 290 pounds. So that's a concern. So then you're saying for a smaller quarterback, basically he has to be Drew Brees.
Right.
Are we believing that Baker Mayfield can be a Drew Brees type quarterback?
I can't stand the comparisons to say he can be like that. You know what?
But
Drew Brees is walking into the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
So he's that size, but there's no way I can sit here and say he's going to be as good as Drew Brees.
That's my concern more than anything else.
You make those two comparisons, yet he doesn't compare because he hasn't stepped foot on the field yet, and you're hoping that he's able to do that. Oh, I absolutely have my concerns. Listen, he is a go-getter, and that means when he breaks that pocket and decides he wants to go get it, that's when I fear it the most. That's when I'm going to put one hand over my one eye and go, oh, no, he's going to get
Well, look
splattered.
what happened in the semifinal game against Georgia.
Yeah.
He got rocked.
Yeah, he did.
He got rocked by a Georgia player that's going to get drafted.
And it's because he has that I want to get it done ability, which you love, but you need to harness a little bit as well and use it to the good. And then there's the other side. A lot of mock drafts have him going to New York.
Yeah.
Here's what else happens, and this is just part of it. You know what? You'd rather, for the entertainment value, we'd like something else, but I always look at it from a former player. I love when Tom Brady does an interview, when Eli Manning does an interview, when Peyton Manning does an interview, and they say nothing.
Correct.
Baker Mayfield, you can light his fuse.
Yep.
You just flat out can. Now, maybe over time he matures to that, but if that New York media, and this is part of it, gang, there's the on the field, and then there's how do you handle yourself as the face of that team. Yeah. And let's be honest, you can light his fuse. And you know what? Writers will do that.
They will.
And I'm not saying they're wrong in doing that. They're allowed to test them a little bit, and that's going to be an interesting part of this game as well.
Yes, you're exactly right. It has nothing to do with all the other stuff. My biggest concern is, does his skill set translate? And people say, look at the stats of the Big 12. Nobody plays defense in the Big 12.
Yeah,
Let's be honest about that. Baker accomplished wonderful things at Oklahoma. That can never be taken away from him. But this is not about that at all. It's about what happens at the next level. And that rah-rah, go-getter competitive stuff in your face only works if you win.
That's exactly
Just
right.
ask the guys looking at Jameis Winston sideways when he said, let's go eat that W.
If you don't win, you know what it becomes? Annoying.
Yeah,
it becomes
exactly.
really, really annoying.
So we'll see what happens.
Listen, I love the way he goes about his business. Can it translate to the NFL and be successful? I quite honestly, the intrigue, because all the other guys we're talking about are all those pocket passers and all that. The intriguing guy to me is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Baker and Lamar are the ones.
Lamar because he's way more dangerous with his legs. Way more dangerous. And if he can use that to the positive, like I said, and not get hurt and get down at the right time or get out of bounds and go for 30 yards when he can do that, and really hurt a defense, that could be something really special.
Let the kid play quarterback and see what happens.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, coming up, how much trouble are the Cavs in against the Pacers, and are the Raptors who we thought they were? We'll ask a former NBA coach in studio.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yeah, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And then we are lucky enough to be joined in studio by former Hornets head coach Steve Clifford, joining us, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contract. You have had the pleasure of working under both of the Van Gundy brothers, Jeff and Stan, born in Island Falls, Maine, began your NBA career as an assistant with the Knicks, and, of course, also started at the University of Fairfield, the Stags, right?
Wow.
Fairfield University.
Under Mitch Bonagura.
There you go.
There you go. How was that career?
It was 1 year, learned a lot, under 500, and moved on the next year to BU, to Boston University.
There you go. All right, nicely done. So, and Steve Clifford is with us, former Hornets head coach. So let me ask you this question. what does a 50-point quarter do to the team that gave up 50 points? Because Tom Thibodeau, the Timberwolves head coach, all about defense. What do? Do you just say, fellas, don't even look at the tape, let's burn it, or let's break down how we gave up 50?
Well, I worked with Tom both in New York and Houston, and I think today will be about these are the things that were not defendable, which a lot of those Harden, I would say at least 3 of those threes were. That's just shot making by a great player. But then there were some that would be mistakes, and that's what they'll correct. And then, as you saw during the timeouts last night, what he was talking to his team about, which is what happens when a great team gets on a roll, is he was unhappy that they got out of character offensively. And he alluded to the fact that they had to stop trying to hit home runs and play the way they had played. So if you look at this series, they've played 8 halves, and in 7 of those halves, their defense has been good enough to win. Last night, which is going to happen with Houston, they got going. But for them to come back and win the next game, they need an offensive performance like they had in Game 3.
So as we look at the league right now, we sit here and we see what Houston does as far as three-point shooting, average the regular season, just over 42 a game. Next closest, I think, is 35, then 33, 32. Are we going to see when are we going to get to multiple teams in the 40? Is that where we're going, multiple teams in the 40, or do you see it revert back a little bit more to not as many threes? Well, which way do you see this going?
Well, it's like any team sport. It's always going to be determined by personnel. Ideally, in my opinion, what you want to get to in our league right now would be 5 out on offense, which would mean a 5-man who can shoot threes, Turner in Indiana, Embiid in Philly, where you can also be good defensively.
Anthony Davis
had 5. Houston has done it by one. Capella's a very good defender, but what they did in the offseason was they went out and got Tucker at the end of last year, and Bamute, whose injury is actually a hit for them. And they've improved their defense a great deal. So to me, in our league, it's always balanced play. You got to do both. I think it's hard to say we're going to play this way. Some of the teams, frankly, in our league that are committing to the three-point shot, it's also why they're not as efficient offensively as they could. Basketball is it's about playing to the strengths of your best players. And that's what Mike D'Antoni is great at. The move that he made when he got there was he put the ball in Harden's hands. He took him off the ball and played him at the point. Now what they've done is they've constructed an offensive game based around spacing, shooting, the 5-man rolling with 2 pick-and-roll players. And I worked with Tom. I worked for Mike in L.A., and Mike I think his utilization of personnel everywhere he goes is terrific, and that's what he's done there.
Steve Clifford, former Hornets head coach, with us in studio again, breaking down the NBA playoffs. Okay, we always say the NBA is also about superstars. You need stars to win. That's not working in Oklahoma City, where they have Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George. They're down 3-1. Look, we can talk about Utah all we want. Donovan Mitchell's played great. They may have the defensive player in the year, so they've done great things. Why isn't it, and why hasn't it worked in Oklahoma City with 3 stars?
Well, I think the biggest thing is this. Everything is matchups, and I watched these 2 teams play, and unfortunately for OKC, to me, Donovan Mitchell's been terrific.
He's been fantastic.
But Gobert is the story of this series, in my opinion. So he is not only a great basket protector, but he's a terrific pick-and-roll defender, and every aspect of his team defense is exceptional. And what he's done is he has taken away those maybe 5 to 6 layups, or those 3 or 4 footers a game that from Westbrook, from George, from everybody else they normally get, and they're not getting those. And these games have been competitive enough so it makes a big difference. Plus, there's a hesitancy, when you're playing against him, that a lot of drives that are fouls, you're at the free throw line, or shooting layups, you're shooting pull-ups, and by the numbers, the pull-up is the shot that you want to give up. He, to me, is the biggest factor in this series.
So, okay, given what you just said and how it can have an effect, can it have this much of an effect? These numbers still blow my mind. Russell Westbrook is one of the most aggressive players we see in the NBA. In the last 3 games against Utah, he's been outscored by Donovan Mitchell 32-5. So he has 5 points in 3 games in the fourth quarter, and in those 3 games, he's only taken 5 total shots. Now, I get it, last night he had 4 fouls in the first half, but how does that happen? You explained some of it with Gobert and the defense, but there's got to be more to it. Those are stunning numbers to me.
Yeah, I think the other thing is Utah is very disciplined, and they have a defensive component out there. Ingles, for instance, is a terrific team defender, individual defender. They play big a lot with Favors and Gobert on the floor. And size, positional size adds so much to your defense. If you look at most of the elite defensive teams, it starts with size and the ability to switch. Then the other thing is Donovan Mitchell offensively is terrific. Nobody can stop Westbrook from getting in the paint, but he's not getting the blow-bys that he does a lot of night. Right. Mitchell's a big body. He's a competitive kid. And he fouled a little bit last night. OKC got to the free throw line more, but they play with discipline. Quinn Snyder's a terrific defensive coach. They funnel everything into the strength, which is Gobert, but they play with good discipline. And I think that's part of it, too.
All right, Steve Clifford with us, former Hornets head coach on Golic and Wingo this morning. Let's move back to the Eastern Conference because there's a couple of series we want to get you to touch on. Let's start with Cleveland and Indiana. Does anybody really have control of this series at this point?
I think it could go 7 games and go right down to the wire. Indiana played well against them in the regular season. They know they can go to Cleveland and win. They've done it, I believe, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. I think the interesting thing there that's going to play forward is for Indiana to win, they're tough-minded, they're very balanced, they're very good defensively, but they're also dependent in close games on the Oladipo high pick and rolls. And in game 1, Cleveland tried to switch that, and he made him pay. You got the bigger guy on him, went at him, drove around him, hit his pull-up, hit his 3. And they've gotten to the stage through 4 games now where they are committing the second defender. They're not going to let him play. So everything is 2 to the ball. And they're basically saying, Victor, you're not beating us. Somebody else is going to have to make the play. So in game 3, Indiana did a great job, and they made shots, particularly Bogdanovich. In game 4, they missed. So I think it's got him, a little bit out of rhythm. It's taken away the number one challenge you'd have in guarding them in a close game is him in a pick and roll with Turner or Sabonis, and they're taking that away. And what it does is, Indiana's playing 4-on-3. They have the right spacing, and it's going to come down to, can those guys make plays?
So if the fun thing about doing a show is we can do hypotheticals. As a coach, you can't do those. You have to go with what you have. So let's do one. Let's say LeBron isn't on Cleveland after this year. Of the teams in the East, the way they're constructed right now, which team in your mind has the ability to say, we are the new dominant team in the East?
Well, Boston, when healthy, obviously, they're playing with 3 of their 7 best players right now. And if they have the same roster back with a healthy Gordon Hayward and a healthy Kyrie, they are balanced. They're terrific defensively. And then you have 2 go-to players that you can't guard one-on-one. But the team, obviously, I think of the future is Philadelphia. You're talking about, they've done a great job. They have 2 guys who are superstar talents. And not just in terms of athletically, they have the skill level, but those 2 kids are competitive guys. And as you guys know, that Coach Parcells used to say, it starts with having guys who compete without the aid of coaching. Embiid is a great competitor, as is Simmons. And they have a good veteran crew around them. They're going to be hard to beat this year, but they're the team of the future. And then, the X factor is Fultz, who we haven't seen a lot of. He's a great athlete. I know Brett says he, too, is competitive. So I would say, looking at it, those are the 2 teams. And then, Toronto is Toronto's very good. And for the next 2 or 3 years with the core they have, they're going to be right there also.
And of course, we'll see if they can put it together finally as the number 1 seed in the East in the playoffs this year. Steve, we appreciate you being with us.
Take a cookie on the road with you if you want.
Grab a Girl Scout cookie, and you'll work it off later.
Decking, railing, lighting, furniture, fencing, framing. At Trex, we make the most in outdoor living because you deserve to get more from your life outdoors. So why not start bringing your ideas to life now with the brand that's engineering what's next. To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, or to find a local retailer or a certified Trex Pro deck builder near you, visit Trex.com. That's Trex.com.
Let's go, 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 White Sox!
Devin, explain to us again why you decided to become a White Sox fan.
Great farm system.
Because of their farm system.
Yeah.
And you gave us the name of one player. What was that guy?
Eloy Jimenez. What position? He's a pitcher. Live arm.
Live arm. Yes, Brett, what do you have for us?
Eloy Jimenez is an outfielder.
You didn't even know what position he was.
Chicago is proud of you.
Love that. Golic and Wingo on the road, brought to you by Progressive Insurance, cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. We're going to get to that story in just a second. We're taking a lot of tweets today on the NFL draft. Another one here from Kurt. At the end of the day, running back Leonard Fournette was the best player in the draft last year. A 3-win Jaguar team wisely passed on Deshaun Watson and Mahomes, took Fournette number 4.
20-second timeout. 20-second timeout. Go ahead. Finish the tweet, but
yeah, went to the AFC Championship game, led the NFL in rushing. Okay,
he didn't lead.
He didn't lead the NFL in rushing.
Not lead the NFL
he was
rushing.
8th in rushing, and he was not the best player in the draft by any stretch.
He wasn't even the best running back in the draft.
Running back taken in the draft.
Who was that? The tweet
that's Kurt. So while we appreciate you tweeting in,
love you.
You're
Stats
just wrong.
Look him up.
Yeah,
okay, he wasn't. He didn't lead the league in rushing. No. Another rookie, I believe, led the league in rushing.
Yeah, it was Kareem
Hunt in the 3rd round. So you didn't even get the fact that he led the league in rushing right.
Yeah.
B, he wasn't even the leading rookie rusher last year. Look, which is not to say that Leonard Fournette didn't do great things for the Jags.
He's a good back.
But stop that now.
He's a good back.
If your argument is based on 2 points that are factually wrong to begin with, I think we're done. You know what else is done? Apparently the cold Yankee bats. Because once the weather has warmed up, they've been doing a lot of this, like what Miguel Andujar did last night.
Pitch. Swung on and drilled to deep left. Hit is high. Hit is far. Here is gone. Andujar hits it far. And he's getting miggy with it. He hits another home run, another extra base hit, and the Yankees take a 4-0 lead.
Wow, that was John Sterling working hard for that one.
I guess
on
when you got
WFAN.
162 games, you got to come up with something.
Andujar hits it far. Getting miggy with it. You bet. That was John Sterling, who is always entertaining.
It's entertaining, but the stat that goes along with this is a lot better than
that's
the call.
much more impressive.
Yeah.
Share.
I will. A home run that he hit makes him only the 3rd player in Yankees history to collect extra base hits in 7 consecutive games before turning 24. According to a live sports bureau, the other 2, they had a couple of good nicknames. The Mickey Mantle, and Joltin' Joe
DiMaggio.
Good list to be on.
I was about to say, so
really good list to be on.
Somehow you are on the same list as Mickey Mantle, number retired Hall of Fame, has a nickname. Joe DiMaggio, number retired Hall of Fame, has a nickname. That is an impressive thing for Miguel Andujar. And also wasn't the only young guy doing well for the Yankees last night. Gleyber Torres, 5th overall prospect in baseball, according to Keith Law, got his first hit. Now, what the Yankees did with Torres is very similar to what the Cubs did with Chris Bryant a couple of years ago, where they waited until after a certain date to bring him up, thus guaranteeing them another year before he can get to arbitration or free agency. So, look, you can be upset about it and all that kind of stuff is fine. They're doing what's in the best interest of their business.
Yes.
Because the Yankees now have a very interesting situation because they have a lot of their best young players at relatively small contracts.
Very small contracts.
Unlike Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, he's buying dinner everywhere. Everybody else is making in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, Can I get to something really important that really angers me?
Can we do that next segment? Because we got to pay off this one other thing.
Go ahead.
We got to pay this off.
Sure.
Because Gleyber Torres, as we said, the 5th overall prospect in baseball. The 6th overall prospect is Eloy Jimenez.
Yes!
Which is Bubble Boy's guy, even though Bubble Boy Devin didn't know he was a hitter, an outfielder, and not a pitcher. However, Jimenez hit 2 home runs last night for the Birmingham Barons, Devin, so you got to be feeling pretty good about things.
He started 0 for 11 in spring training, so it just shows that he's not giving up.
No.
How soon is he getting called up? Give me a date.
It's got to be, he's got to work it. He's got to work it in still.
Okay.
Yeah. But
just coming off an injury, right?
End of the year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm looking forward to when we send Devin as a roving White Sox reporter.
Yeah.
He's got a live bat, apparently, as well as a live arm.
Live arm from an
live
outfielder.
arm, too, as an outfielder. Coming up, our next guest says the team he coached should draft Lamar Jackson. And I want to know what you're all upset about, too. I want to hear about that when we come back.
Get it.
Stay with it. Oh, I'm afraid of that, yes.
Don't challenge us all!
Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube, leave worry behind.
Oh, I don't think they are either, but if the phone rang, they'd pick it up. You always pick up the phone.
2 shows earlier.
But inside that office, if Sam Darnold is head and shoulders above the other ones, and that's the guy they want, I would not even answer the phone.
Look, you covered it either way. You were good.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I'm
wrong. I'm right.
You're covered either way.
Cool.
You're good.
Cool with it.
It's okay, because you know why you can do that now? Because it's the lying season.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
It is the lying season in football. Everybody's floating stuff out there, trying to pretend like this is actually happening to see if they can induce or entice a team to take the bait, and get on the hook for maybe moving up for a pick that probably wasn't going to happen anymore.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly what's going on.
We're going to talk to Bruce Arians, who's been a head coach in the NFL, just about what goes on right now.
Correct.
But before we do that, do you mind if I rip one of our listeners?
Sure, because we want to do that.
Well, I'm sorry. He deserves it.
Okay.
This is on Twitter. Ryan says, we have a bunch of Girl Scout cookies out here. My wife bought tons of boxes.
Yep.
We brought some in here for everybody, and we put them out on a tray for our guests.
Somebody that came by that works in radio took an entire box and ran away.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
There you go.
Ryan tweets in, Thin Mints are overrated garbage.
Ryan, your tweet is overrated garbage.
Are you
should
kidding
never be
me?
aired again.
Now, everybody should be entitled to their opinion. I get that, but that one hurts to the core.
That's just
right
wrong
there
on so many levels.
So as much as I disagree with Ryan, Pete, on the other side of it, there's always the 180, right? There's the other side of it. Pete says, have you tried the stack?
The stack?
Give me a Samoa and Thin Mint stack.
Little coconut, little mint, little chocolate.
There happens to be a Samoa and a Thin Mint right here in the studio. I'm going to, yeah.
Stack it up. Go ahead. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Mike Golic is reaching for the cookies. He's taking the Thin Mint first. He's taking, well, first of all, actually, you should make a Thin Mint sandwich. Can you do that? Get 2. All right, so he's got Thin Mint, Samoa, and now a Thin Mint. So it's a stack sandwich. 3, 2, 1, consume. No, he's bit halfway through. Thoughts?
The crunchy of the Thin Mint on the outside is the bread.
Yeah.
And inside the Samoa has that
little juiciness to it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Oh, it's excellent.
Oh, you know what you really need right now?
Milk.
A big glass of milk. Like a nice dipping glass of milk. How much are you? This is the best part of your day right now, isn't it?
Wow.
This is by far the best part of your day.
I need to put the vodka aside. Someone get me some milk.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that later. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And the Cleveland Browns, now according to Adam Schefter, are definitely considering Baker Mayfield with the number 1 overall pick. That according to a league executive telling our Adam Schefter. The thing about that is GM John Dorsey said about Baker Mayfield, he referred to him as a pleasant fella.
Oh, there you go.
So he's a pleasant fella.
I love hearing GMs and head coaches talk right now on kind of information they give out.
Information overload, subterfuge, counter-espionage.
When did Bruce Arians give out?
You know who else is a very pleasant fella? Former Cardinals head coach Bruce Arians. And he joins us now. Good morning, pleasant fella, Bruce. How are you?
I'm doing great, pleasant fellows. How are you?
Very, very well. So let's break it down because you're no longer a head coach. You know this, right? People are right now saying things that they don't believe and are not true to see if somebody's going to bite on moving up for a player, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. That's why I used to love telling the truth because nobody believed you.
Did you? So how did you discuss it with your staff or anybody that would maybe talk to the media or talk to anybody around draft time of how you were going to give out information?
There was none. There was no talk. Steve Keim, myself, Michael Bidwell, that was it. And Terry McDonough to some extent, but the three of us, we finalized that board after everybody was gone. The scouts were gone. The coaches were gone. We massaged that board the way we wanted it, and it stayed that way till we picked.
So you guys pretty much stayed true to that then?
Oh, all the way.
Yeah.
All the way. Yeah, if there was any leaks, it was one of the three of us. That never happened.
Could all look at one another and said, who did it?
All right, well, there's only 3 of us in this room. Steel cage grudge match. Yeah, keep the circle tight. Bruce Arians, former Cardinals head coach, with us this morning. Okay, Bruce, listen, Arizona obviously is going to be in the quarterback market sitting at 15. You believe there's one guy they should pick, and you think that quarterback is?
Oh God, I think there's 5 or 6, and that's the beauty of this draft because it's kind of like judging a beauty contest. Which one do you like? They're all good. You know?
Which one do you like the most?
I would have to have Sam Darnold on top right now. But I'm very intrigued with Lamar Jackson.
Well, okay, that's interesting. Because we were just talking about him, is he's the most dynamic player, for lack of a better term, with everything he can do. Where are you with what you like about Lamar Jackson, and what are your concerns?
Well, I don't have many concerns other than I personally did not sit down and X and O with Lamar. Everything I've heard, I know he was well coached by Bobby Petrino and toughly coached in a pro-style offense. He can spin it. I look at his leadership. I go back to Vince Young, and, Vince had an awkward throwing motion, but he was accurate. Then when you listen to him talk now, he didn't study the game well enough. He didn't put the time in. I think Lamar puts the time in. But what he can do running the football, and I would not design runs for the guy, just let him do it naturally, but he can just break the game open.
So along those lines, take us there, because Lamar Jackson, we all believe, is going to go into the first round, and he's by far, of the quarterbacks we're talking about, the most dangerous if he wants to use his legs. How do you go about, because there's no way he can run as much as he did in college. He'll get killed. But how do you coach him in the NFL? You just said you wouldn't design runs for him, but how do you talk to him about the smartness of when to run, and when you're running, how to either get down or get out of bounds? What are those discussions like?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's just his natural ability. You see him on tape. He gets out of the pocket, his eyes are downfield. Now, when he drops his eyes and takes off, watch out. And that's just, that comes with, first thing you got to do as a quarterback is win your locker room over. And toughness, I talked about Carson Wentz. He had to win the locker room over. Well, he's won it over now. He doesn't quite have to be his Superman. Andrew Luck had to do the same thing. You got to play within yourself, but you don't want to take away that natural God-given ability that these guys have and try to mold them into something they're not.
Yeah, Bruce, I always refer to it, as we're talking to Bruce Arians, former Cardinals head coach, as the nuclear deterrent. You want the other team to prepare for it, but you really don't want to have to use it unless it's a last resort. Because at the end of the day, to win successfully as a quarterback, it has to be from the pocket, but you want the other team to worry about that running effect.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and I just think of the dream backfield of David Johnson and Lamar Jackson. When you do get in the shotgun, and it's not necessarily a zone read, but there's a lot of cutback lanes because you're going to cover the quarterback. He doesn't have to run it but once, maybe a game on that stuff. Like I love Russell Wilson a couple of years ago, and Carson Wentz to some extent. It just opens your running game up when you have to prepare for the quarterback possibility. Dak Prescott is the same thing.
Right.
It just helps Ezekiel run.
Yeah, it's certainly.
But yeah, I think all those things. I think it's going to be a great draft. I think it's going to be a very dynamic draft.
Well, it could be an historic draft. Bruce Arians, former Cardinals head coach, with us, and let's talk about that for a second, because there's the idea that 5 and maybe potentially 6 quarterbacks go in the first round if somehow Mason Rudolph slips into the first round. Again, we've only had that happen twice. 1983, the vaunted 6 quarterbacks, 3 of them Hall of Famers, 3 of them not. And then in 1999, there were 5 quarterbacks taken. Can you talk about the importance of getting a franchise quarterback in the draft when so many are available? Because this is a crop we won't see for a long time going forward. So how important is it not only to take a quarterback, but to get the right quarterback in a quarterback-rich draft?
Well, that's getting the right one. I mean, you can go get one just to say you got one and please the fan base, and then you get him and go, oh, God, we're stuck with this for 5 years. And that's not what you want. You want the guy that you want. And if there's only 3 out of the 6 that you want and he's not there, go get a great player. Get a player that you really want to pick up the 5th-year option on.
As far as these quarterbacks coming in, if they're in a situation where there isn't an established starter, how are you and where are you on the thought process of drafting a guy and giving him the keys and saying this is your team from the start?
Yeah, I've been in that situation twice, Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck.
Win-win.
And, yeah, I mean, and it's just like we're 3-13 with Peyton his rookie year, and it was – but we went to practice every day excited, knowing how much better we were going to be the next year. And once we put a defense around him, and we're just watching him grow. And the young players that we drafted in that draft, watching them grow that year. So 3-13 wasn't a bad year. It was a fun year to actually coach. Andrew Luck was just ridiculous what he did with those other 6 rookies on offense that year in Indianapolis. And I really hope he gets healthy because I think he's one of the most special guys I've ever coached.
Well, that's a great point, Bruce, because that is a question mark now. I mean, he had the shoulder surgery. It's almost been 15 months. He still isn't throwing a football. What's your level of concern that Andrew Luck will get the strength back in that shoulder to be the guy that he was before he got hurt?
I have a lot of confidence in it just because I know his work ethic and God willing, I mean, if it's not something that's just gone, if it's nerve damage, that's a whole different animal. And I haven't really talked specifically with Andrew other than how you feeling, how you doing, I'm getting better, exactly what it is. But, I just hope and pray for the game, for the NFL, that kid is back because what he did as a rookie, I've never seen.
Talking to Bruce Arians, former Cardinals head coach and longtime coach in the NFL. Let's talk a little bit of draft overall. Take us in that draft room and just, is it calm looking, or is it like the duck with, the feet going crazy under the water, but looking calm on the outside? Inside that war room, how out of hand can it get?
Well, I think if you're not prepared, it can get really out of hand. But if you're prepared and you're board set, and they start falling, and you've placed them properly, when it's for your time, you're going to have probably a choice between 3 to 5 guys that you want, and normally that there's just, hey, if all 5 are there, this is the guy we got rated the highest. We're going with him.
So right now it's Tuesday. The draft is in 2 days. Does every team have their guy set? If their guy's available, they know exactly who they're going to take. Does every team, are they in that position right now?
Yeah, I think so. And they probably have a trade partner already established with the idea that if my guy's there, we're doing this deal with you. And it will be done on the clock when the guy's on the board. But pre-draft, you're going to have a partner ready to roll.
If you want to do a trade or the trade strategy, is there talk right when you're on the clock and it starts, or do you wait to pressure them by having not much time left on the clock to force them into a decision? How does that work?
That's really the most fun of the draft is when that phone starts ringing. You're next, and you're next, and it's like boom, two or three phones start ringing, different teams, and then you pull out your chart. Is it a valuable trade for us? How far back are we still going to get one of those guys we want? I mean, that's important. How far back are we going? We're still going to get the guy we want, or possibly get one of those 5. You're making the phone call, and you're wanting to go. Sometimes you might have to lose a little bit in that transaction to go get that player you want. But that's really the exciting part of the draft.
When you say pull out that chart, obviously it's of players, but do you use a point system, a value system for draft picks and players in a draft trade?
Yes, all the way. And you'd always like to come out on top, but if 2 guys are trading, only one can come out on top. It's just if you're really going after a guy, how far? Don't let them just take you hostage and just wear you out with the thing. But and sometimes with quarterbacks, that is you lose drastically, but you get the guy you want.
Well, certainly Howie Roseman in Philadelphia has been holding people hostage the last couple of years. He's done a great job with that. Bruce Arians, former Cardinals head coach, with us. All right, let's talk specifically about the New York Giants. A lot of people look at them at the 2 slot, Bruce, and think this is one of those swing spots in the entire first round of the draft. Clearly, you could make the case that the Giants should take a quarterback when we talk about how rich the quarterbacks are in this draft, and Eli Manning is getting up there. He's been playing since 2004. And then there's talk that Dave Gettleman is hyping Saquon Barkley. Of course, that could be to see if somebody wants to come up and get that pick for the player they want. If you were sitting at number 2 with the Giants, would you be looking at a quarterback, or would you be thinking a Barkley or a Bradley Chubb type player?
I think that totally depends on Davis Webb in minicamp. What they saw in Davis Webb. If they thought they had a guy they could groom, then it's offense, defense, best player, either Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb. And if not, if they don't think they have that guy, then I think, no. The other thing is, how long Eli going to play?
Right.
We're going to have this guy on a rookie contract and not play for 3 years, and his option come up, and that was the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. They really didn't know what they had when you have to pay him for that second contract. So that's kind of the catch-22 is how long is Eli playing?
There is other things we've heard and strategies we've heard. What do you think of this one? We've heard this more than a few times. The Cleveland Browns have been looking for a quarterback forever. There's multiple quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. The Cleveland Browns should take a quarterback at number 1 and at number 4. What do you think of that?
I think that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes, Bruce, yes.
Thank you.
Bruce is on the same squad with us.
Let me put it this way. Is there any reason at all you could think of the possibility of doing that like some people suggest?
No. First of all, how much money would you have in that room compared to the rest of your team? And when were you going to find out if number 1 or 4 is better? You only got so many reps. You know, you got OTAs, you got 11 practices, 12 practices in camp, and a quarter in a preseason game. Is he playing with the good guys? Is he playing with the bad? When's Tyrod playing?
Right.
When are you ever going to find out which one of those two guys is better? It's not like you hold scrimmages every week like college. I mean, to me, that's asinine.
Well, see, this is why you got to listen to the quarterback whisper. Okay, this is what he's done his entire career. Whether it's Peyton, whether it's Andrew Luck, working with Carson Palmer, working with Ben Roethlisberger, Bruce knows. So let's just stop that now. Let's end that discussion now. It makes no sense. Thank you very much. So, Bruce, now you are in charge of the Cleveland Browns with 1 and 4. Assuming you keep both those picks, obviously you're going to take. We feel like they're going to take a quarterback at number 1. What do you do at 4 if you're Cleveland?
Well, I think that's the who falls. Is it? I mean, the dream scenario is you get your quarterback is Saquon Barkley, or you match Bradley Chubb up with Myles Garrett, and you got Craig Williams is having a champagne dinner with those two guys coming off the edge. So, I mean, I don't know how they can go wrong with either way. If they want to take the player they don't think is going to be there, take him, because if you like 3 quarterbacks, one of them's going to be there.
And overall, as we look at the OTAs that are starting right now, for Steve Wilkes in Arizona and the other new coaches who get to start a little earlier, when you took over the Arizona Cardinals, what does these new coaches, how are you establishing your identity as early as the OTAs as a new head coach?
Yeah. I mean, you want to put your stamp on it, on what you want to be as an organization and as a team. That first setting the tempo with your OTA schedule, with your extra mini camp to look at your guys and what you have and what you might not have as far as going into the draft, have it as competitive as possible so you really do get a good look. But you want to put the stamp on this is what we're going to be. Smart, fast, and physical. Whatever it is, win today, whatever your motto is, whatever your stamp is going to be, that's going to be your rallying cry.
And Bruce, maybe the most important question we're going to ask you, as far as Girl Scout cookies go, are you a fan of Thin Mints?
No, I was a peanut butter guy all the way.
Oh, we got those up here as well.
We got those as well. The
tag-alongs.
The chocolate peanut butter or just the crunchy peanut butter, man. I was a peanut butter guy all the way.
Good stuff. I can go with those.
Yeah, I can't. I was like, wow, and then I'm like, well,
we have them right up here.
He makes a compelling argument.
Yeah,
he does. All right, Bruce, we appreciate your time this morning. We'll see how it all plays out at the draft in 2 days. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Every deck is made for standing on, but there's only one that's always had a way of standing out. So if you're looking to bring more style, comfort, and creativity to your life outdoors, call on the brand that's known for making the most in outdoor living. From decking, railing, and lighting to furniture, fencing, and framing, At Trex, we're engineering what's next in outdoor living. To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, call 1-800-289-TREX or visit Trex.com. That's TREX.com.
So, you got my money?
Yeah.
Stewie! Family Guy, Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And then we're joined in studio by the likes of analyst Jonathan Vilma joins us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best network, no contracts. You know him, of course, as a Super Bowl champ with the Saints, 3-time Pro Bowler, all-around good guy, and a compatriot of mine in the workout room at ESPN more often than not on the treadmill together. Jonathan, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, doing great. I'm actually headed to the weight room after this.
See, there you go.
There you go.
Gotta get it.
I bet it looks a lot different than you in that.
Oh, that I can't confirm.
No, Trey gets a good workout.
He does.
Yes.
He does get a good workout. No,
you don't have to.
I'm
you can
not.
call him out.
I'm telling you, it's a legitimate workout. He goes and he gets in there.
Hey, this dad bod doesn't come by itself. Let me tell you that right now.
Take some work.
There you go. You got to do a little bit of work. Speaking of that, teams are doing a little bit of work right now. As a player, what was the draft process like for you, going through what may be a life-changing experience?
By the way, you for those that may not remember, 12th pick overall.
Yes.
Back in 2004.
It was really status quo. When I was coming out I didn't come out my junior year. When I got evaluated my junior year, they said I would have been, mid to late first rounder. I was still projected as one of the top inside linebackers. So I stayed my senior year, and after that, I was considered the top inside linebacker the whole way through. So I just wanted to make sure that I was in shape, I was prepared. Belichick came down, worked me out like a dog. I had to make sure that there were no intangibles that anyone would say, well, what about his character or what about this? So I just made sure that I stayed the course, so to speak. And then when draft time came, I was there with my family down at Dave & Buster's over in Miami, and got
Shout
the
out
call.
Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dave & Buster's. Got the call. And
That's where your draft party was?
Dave & Buster's.
That is awesome.
Dave & Buster's. I just wanted to play pool.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch the draft, play some pool, eat some food. It was good times.
Oh, that's
That's all I wanted to do.
Great call right there. So you talked about intangibles. We hear about especially the last 2 years, these crazy questions that players get asked by teams that a lot of times these teams end up getting in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Did you go through that? This is 2004 as opposed to now. What were some of the crazier things, if there were any, in your time?
I had no crazy questions about me or directed towards me. I did have one crazy question asked about Kellen Winslow. And one of the coaches asked me, is Kellen Winslow on drugs? And I was like, no,
really?
He's not. He had a reason to ask, but I was like, no, he's definitely not on drugs. Great teammate. And then he proceeded to explain why he asked me that. And he was like, we brought him up for a visit. He slept through one of the meetings, just crazy stuff. And we asked him, how come you're late? And he said, I was busy playing video games, just weird stuff. And so
sounds like the worst possible answer you could give.
It was just a 20-year-old jock at the time. Great teammate, by the way. Great teammate.
Along those lines, what do you think of, as we talked about, we don't think it'll affect Baker Mayfield where he's taken, but of his situation with the Chargers, who took him to lunch, and before that, and what they do with quarterbacks, what teams do, give them some plays to kind of study and then regurgitate over the meal or whatever. And Baker said, well, I didn't really study him. I got a lot of my playbook. I think I'll be gone by this team selection. What did you think of that answer and how he handled that situation?
I don't think he handled it well. I think that Baker Mayfield clearly is very honest, so I can appreciate that. But I don't think he handled that well at all. I think that you never know how this draft's going to play out.
Correct.
You never know. Ask Aaron Rodgers. You never know how the draft is going to play out. And it's almost disrespectful to disrespect the team.
I think you
way.
can take almost out of it. I think I think it is disrespectful.
Well, because it could be. I'd say almost, because if I'm the team, I'm saying, well, do I want a confident quarterback? Okay, yes, I want a confident quarterback. Do I want a quarterback that's going to go and shoot it straight to the players and keep it real? Yes, I want that. So if he honestly believes that he's going to be one of the top picks and is that confident, hey, it's okay to go out there and say it. Doesn't mean he has to hide it, and that's what he believes, but I still think he should have gone, studied it, and handle that situation
or
more
just
appropriately.
respectfully decline going to lunch, right?
Correct.
If you don't think you're going to be
If you
there,
don't
in
think
that
you're
draft,
gonna be there.
just, okay, I'm going to sit this one out.
But I think what you said is perhaps the most important thing, and this is the thing I try to address with people when I do the draft. You just said it about Kellen Winslow. It's Jonathan Vilma here with us in studio. He was a 20-year-old jock.
Right.
I think people look at you guys when you're drafted because you've won the genetic lottery and you have this, for lack of a better term, tiger blood and Adonis DNA. Shout out Charlie Sheen. And they think of you as 30-year-old guys right away.
Correct.
People forget how young you guys are when you go through this process. It's like they think of you as a product and not a person.
And I always say, when people say, oh, why did he do that? Why did he get drunk and do something silly and do something stupid? I'm like, he's 20.
Yeah.
He's 19. He's in college.
21.
Think back to when you were 19, 18 years old in college.
Don't want to.
All the stupid things you got in trouble for, just stupid stuff. And you can't, it's like they're not allowed to fail. They're not allowed to make a mistake and learn from it.
How about the other side of that? Again, with a guy like Baker Mayfield, who a lot of people are putting in your first team. You got drafted by the Jets, with the Jets with the number 3 pick. So talk about the media side of it, how you're dealing with off the field when the media members and what they're asking for a guy who can be honest, maybe sometimes to a fault.
Too honest.
And
Correct.
maybe you can get him going. You could light his fuse a little bit of just if you feel how different is that New York media, and could that be possibly a problem?
The New York media is very different. It's very different because it's so consistent and it never stops. So it's every day. If you had a good game on Sunday, you're going to hear about it every day until the next following Sunday. If you had a bad game, you're going to hear about it. And it was easy for guys like myself to drown it out, frankly, because I was on the defensive side. Yeah. And so I heard about it, and if we played well, played poorly, but it was always the focus would be on the offense, or whether it's the quarterback position, the wide receiver position, whatever it was. So for Baker Mayfield, I know that they're going to try to get under his skin. And it's easy for whoever is his confidant to say, you got to drown it out. But that's not in his nature. You can tell it's not in his nature. Look when he plays. When he plays, he wears that emotion, and frankly, that's what I think drives him and has him playing so well. When you call him a bad quarterback, what does he do? He throws for a 70% completion, 400 yards. So that's going to be it's a give and take.
Yeah. He's got to find the line.
Right. If you're the organization, you're going to have to give a little, knowing that he may get riled up by one of these reporters. And it's going to happen. He may fire back because he's very honest. So you're going to have to give a little bit because he's not a choir boy. Yeah. That's what it is. Right. And frankly, what makes him so good is that emotion.
Yeah, he can't lose that. I mean, that's what makes him
Baker Mayfield.
A hit at the next level. And boy, what a hit you'd be in a place like New York if you're successful and winning with that type of an attitude.
I think if he just remembers what got him here is his accuracy, his knowledge of the defense and the offense, his growth in that system, and not turning the ball over. If you just think about that and say, look, I may not know the offense. I know I can still put the ball where I need to, and I don't turn the ball over, he'll be okay. He'll be okay for the first year, 2 years, and of course everyone will want more, but just don't turn the ball over. That's what made him so good. Like, that's why I like him the most right now of all 4 quarterbacks.
Out of all the quarterbacks, you like him the best.
But he won't turn the ball over. Yeah. That's why. If you go out there and you give me 5 turnovers a game or whatever it is,
you're toast.
You can't win.
No.
It's about possession. You get 11, 12 possessions a game. You lose 5 of those. You can't win. There's no way to win.
All right, Jonathan Vilma with us in studio. You've just told us that you like Baker Mayfield better than any other quarterback. Give me the other player at any position in this draft you like more than anybody else.
Oh, Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
No doubt. Roquan Smith.
Linebacker taking a linebacker.
Well, it was because
he showed out in the college playoffs.
He did. I watched him against Notre Dame.
Right.
And I was actually watching the O-lineman for Notre Dame, and I was like, how'd they do against Georgia? And I kept watching this guy literally flying on the film. I was like, who is this guy? He was violent. He was physical. I was like, he is good. He is really good. And I started watching a couple more Georgia games. I was like, all right, he is the real deal. This wasn't a one-hit wonder, one-game wonder. And I fell in love watching the way he plays. It's a throwback linebacker.
Well, okay, you say throwback because I was going to ask you, even from your time in the league, finishing in 13 but coming in 4, how has your position changed in the NFL?
The position has become less technical. The position for some teams has become a lot less physical. At the same time, there's a lot more knowledge that is put on your plate at that middle linebacker position. The technical part that I refer to is you see a lot of guys, they're big, they're strong, they're athletic, but they don't use their hands. They don't use their hands to take on linemen. They rather use a shoulder, rather try to run around them. And I remember being in college, it works a little bit, but Randy Shannon, he was my defensive coordinator. He said, you have to use your hands, facing hands, if you want to consistently get off blocks. And frankly, if you want to make it in the next level. So I see that has waned a little bit. I don't see the technical part. And then as far as the physical part, you have, frankly, defensive coordinators, they'll put a safety at the middle backer position now.
Right. Deion Buchanan.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I mean, granted, he likes to hit. He likes contact. But there's some that don't. Yeah. And they still put him there because they're thinking coverage.
Right. So, Jonathan Vilma with us. Obviously, you went to the U, a big part of one of the greatest 30 for 30s of all time.
Oh, my
It was one of the best. Is there one player from Miami that you think we should be talking about more than any other that we're not?
Going into the draft now.
Is it the running back? Is it the defensive end, Thomas? Who do you like?
Who do I like, or who should we be talking about more?
Who do you like?
To be honest, there's no one you should be talking about more. Okay. Who do I like?
Yeah.
I like Chad Thomas a lot.
Right.
I like Mark Walton. Mark Walton's getting healthy. And I like them for off the field chip on their shoulder, demeanor. And Mark Walton, he is a focused young man. His mother passed away. Yep. He has a kid, and he has had a chip on his shoulder since day one. Chad Thomas is the same way. He's one of those guys. He has a chip on his shoulder. His chip is because he's really good at producing music.
Yes.
Oh, right.
He plays
right,
9 instruments.
Right.
9.
Correct.
And has his own music line.
And everyone keeps trying to use that as a negative against him, saying, oh, you're not into football. You don't like football. And he wears that chip on his shoulder because he's like, I love football the same way I love music. Yeah. And I go and I practice my craft the same way I practice my craft in music.
That is very cool. And one of the other things, especially these first rounders are going to get all of a sudden, is a ton of money. Yeah. So when you were a first rounder, you got a lot of money right out of the gate.
I blew it all.
What was that first fun thing you bought?
Everything. No, I'm joking.
That's another 30.
What I bought
first
a
fun thing.
2004 Range Rover.
Nice.
Really?
That I still have to this day.
There you go.
Still have
there you go.
How many miles?
That's my baby. Bonnie. Her name is Bonnie.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
wow.
my baby. She doesn't have a lot of miles on her, surprisingly. 100.
You took care of her.
I did. 110,000, somewhere around there.
And you know what? That car's been with you so long, now it's vintage and probably worth more than it was when you bought it.
Don't get my hopes up.
There you go.
I know.
Wait a minute. You want him to break up with Bonnie here already? What are you doing?
Money talks, man. That's what it is. The money talks.
Bonnie has increased in value, and that's what we're hoping all draft picks to increase in value. 9 instruments for Chad Thomas. Yeah, how dare he have an outside interest, like being an actual human being. Yeah. Come on. Jonathan, you're the best,
Good
man.
stuff.
Thanks for stopping.
Man.
See you in the workout room, Jonathan. Throw some weights.
There we go.
We're going to stack some stuff.
Did he do more than the elliptical in the weight room?
He did.
Yes.
He did. We had the treadmill. We were treadmill buddies.
Yeah.
Elliptical and the row machine.
Does he lift a weight?
Little core work.
Very
that
low.
what I can't comment on.
Yeah. The air gun is being lifted.
I cannot tell a lie.
I'm lifting a cup. There we go. Coming up, a superstar player apparently doesn't want to talk about something you brought up. Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
I like those horns, man. I want big sound. I get this, and they get this.
Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever.
All right, we continue. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We had Mel on yesterday when you were out, and this is why I love Mel. Mel just put out there his top 300 prospects for the draft.
Wow.
Big board, 300.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, that's a deep dive.
Yes,
Let's be clear
it
about
is.
that.
That's why on Saturday you just go,
Mel? You're 100% right. But the number one player in the draft, according to Mel, is running back Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
And Mel also has a standing rule he would never take a running back in the first round. So Mel is a conflicted man. I love him, but he's a conflicted man.
I think held down and really given that truth serum, I got to believe that changes now for Mel because I think that position has changed. Not really has changed. I mean, we saw Marshall Faulk catch the ball out of the backfield as well as run, but we're seeing that more and more out of running backs. When you say running back, the natural thought is just a runner. It's just not. You see the guys that are making hay in the NFL, type. They are the guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield, line up in the slot, line up at wide receiver wide, and all of a sudden, not only can you get that mismatch, you can help get the defensive read and the defense by seeing who covers them or how they walk out on them. There's so many ways you can use a versatile running back that I almost think the name running back almost does a disservice to what they really are.
The first guy who nailed it was a few years ago out of Ole Miss, Dexter McCluster. He said, I'm not a running back, I'm an OW, offensive weapon.
There you
and
go.
That's what they
I agree.
Are right now.
Yes.
All right, so we're all in on the NFL draft. We're also into the NBA pettiness again as the Jazz are up 3-1. This was Russell Westbrook after Game 3 in which Ricky Rubio had a triple-double.
I'm going to shut that shit off next game, though. Guarantee that.
Okay,
Ooh.
So then he did to some degree. Ricky Rubio did not have a triple-double, but he was plus 22 when he was on the floor, and Russell was minus 14 with foul trouble, and Russell Westbrook was asked about that, and here's how that went.
Did you feel like your aggressiveness was appropriate to defend Rubio with in this game tonight?
What do you mean?
In the sense that you picked up 2 fouls pretty early in terms of the aggressiveness you were using on him, and
well, it's not about me or him. Let's get past that. We done with that.
Oh, well, you were the one that brought it up.
Brought that up after Game 3.
You were the one that brought it up in Game 3, and then you want to talk about it in Game 4.
I'm going to shut that bleep down.
I don't know what's going on there.
What am I going to do?
Right.
And he didn't. You're right. He didn't get a triple-double. He had 13 points, 6
and 7, I think,
6 and 8,
something like that.
6 rebounds, 8 assists. So he didn't get that. But
he was efficient.
No, it wasn't about them.
No, not about them, even though it was about them.
As I'll continue to say, while Donovan Mitchell is just showing how fantastic he is, the bigger surprise to me is Russell Westbrook in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
where is he? In the last 3 games, he scored 5 points total and taken 5 shots total in the last 3 games.
Now, last night, a lot of that was foul trouble.
Exactly.
But the other 2.
But still, the most aggressive guy in the NBA, and that's all he got. Surprising to me. Give Utah credit.
Yes.
Certainly, you have a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year in Gobert controlling the paint in there. But still, Russ has usually found a way.
Yep.
But hasn't been able to do so in these last 3 games.
All right, we got to go because we're on the road in Dallas tomorrow. Hall of Fame Cowboy legend quarterback Roger Staubach will join us in studio as we get set for the draft. By the way, mock drafts are now over.
Yes, they are.
Which is a great thing. I put this out on Twitter yesterday. It was a poll. The world has too many A, mock drafts, B, podcasts, C, people, or D, Twitter polls. People won with 40%. Second place, mock drafts. 36%.
No.
We're not mocking anymore.
We're just
going to draft.
We're just going to mock the draft.